topic tonight is happiness. Happiness. Something that I feel as though has become a lot more elusive, let's say. Happiness. How the fuck does one become happy anymore? No fucking idea. It's gotten so bad. I believe, this is a personal belief that I'm starting to develop myself. I believe happiness, you are fated to a certain level of happiness or unhappiness at birth. I think that at birth it is decided. God or the universe or whatever the fuck is out there has decreed, well, this motherfucker's going to be happy or this motherfucker's not going to be happy. A lot of happiness, as it so happens, is connected to obviously confidence, self-esteem. The issue therein is, where the fuck does self-esteem come from? Where does one acquire this? What mystical sorcery is this that allows one to not want to kill themselves? I think, I'll tell you what I think, alright? In case you were wondering. Here's what I think. I think that internal confidence, self-esteem, is only possible when you're also receiving validation externally. When external validation is given, that gives you internal validation. You see on TikTok, on Instagram, you see on these different sites, people who, by all accounts, should not feel confident about themselves, but they do, because they receive validation from these sites, you see. Now, personally, I have no problem with fat bitches. Fat bitches are my shit, quite frankly. But most men don't see it that way. And yet, the amount of confidence that so many fat bitches online have, I think, is astonishing. And the reason why they have so much confidence, why they feel so good about themselves in spite of, or even because of the way they look, is because people give them affirmation. They give them validation. They make them feel good online. Right? I imagine maybe it doesn't happen that often in person, but they get it from their online viewership. A lot of people will say, well, yeah, you just need to feel good about yourself, feel good in your own skin, just, fucking, just be confident, everything will fall into place. Yeah, that's bullshit. You know what, tell me? I'll tell you why that's bullshit. Is because, okay, you got a few options here. Number one is that's coming from a person who has only ever been externally validated. That's coming from a person who has always received external validation, oftentimes for their looks. It's very easy, I think, to be confident in yourself if you like the way that you look. And how you come to like the way that you look is people tell you look good. Alright? People tell you look good. If people don't tell you you're attractive, why the fuck would you ever think you are? Right? So people who are attractive get a lot of external validation, which leads to a lot of them feeling very confident. Right? So that's type number one. They've only ever received external validation, and so to them, they don't see how the second that external validation goes away, they're left a fucking mess. They're left a complete mess because they've only ever known that reality. So they just in their mind, everybody has the same life that they do. They can't fathom a world in which people aren't externally validated, so they're talking out of their ass. Option two is it's people who understand that what they're saying is bullshit, but it sounds so good. No, everybody is special. Everybody has, something that makes them special. Everybody, everybody should feel good about themselves. It sounds good to say with no sort of, further critical examination. It sounds really good. Oh yeah, you're special. Your life matters, right? You just have to believe in yourself. Even if no one else does. You just have to believe in yourself. And those motherfuckers are lying to you too. Well, first off, if you're not attractive, no one believes in you anyway. If you're not physically attractive, no one actually gives a fuck if an ugly bastard fucking kills himself. Who cares? Alright, people care if, the popular, hot blonde girl kills herself. Right? The sports guy, the sports ball guy, he kills himself. Oh, what a fucking tragedy. Right? If some, fat, ugly guy with nothing going for him killed himself, it's like, oh, well, it was a matter of time. And I understand that some of this is coming off pretty bad. Right? And I get why. I understand why. The reason why is because I am projecting some of my own insecurities into this, but that's what it's going to be. All right? I don't know any other way to be than insecure. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know any other way to live than, sort of constant self-hatred and self-loathing. I don't really have much hope left for anything. People might say, oh, don't worry, things will get better, but how? When? Explain to me. Most of the time when people say that, they're just trying to be nice. Right? They're just trying to be nice. They're trying to not push you further, right, closer to the edge. They're trying real hard. Right? It's unfortunate then that all the advice that they give is worthless. It's dog shit. It doesn't actually work. It only works for people who already get external validation. Right? Anybody tells you that internal validation comes before external validation, they're fucking bullshitting. They are bullshitting. They are lying to you. Either because it sounds good and they're trying to appear virtuous, that's option 2, or because they literally don't even know what it's like to go your entire life without being validated externally, which is option 1. All right? I know I went in reverse order there. It might be getting a little confusing, a little convoluted. Fucking bear with me, right? This is unscripted because scripts are for pussies, all right? Scripts are for pussies. That's the end of it, all right? At the end of the day, I think that your happiness is decided at birth. How happy you are, how happy you're bound to be in your life is decided at birth. And the reason is because happiness comes from internal validation, and internal validation comes from external validation. All right. Now you might say, well, what about all the people who are externally validated and they aren't happy anyway? They kill themselves or whatever the fuck. Right? That's what you call a mental illness. That's what you call a mental illness. That's what you call, depression and whatnot. That's where the mental illness comes in. People who kill themselves because they're unhappy, and they're unhappy because they have no self-confidence, self-esteem, and the reason why they have no self-confidence or self-esteem is because they've never received any external validation in their life. That's not mental illness, that's just the logical conclusion to that course of events. That's how they were fated to live and fated to die. You might not believe in fate in the literal sense, right? In that there's some supernatural, magical force compelling you to live and die a certain way, and I think that's valid. But I think it is inevitable that some people will kill themselves. And I don't believe in multiverse theory, so I think that they were only ever inevitably going to kill themselves. I don't believe there's an infinite amount of alternate universes where they live long, happy, prosperous lives. I think that they were always bound for that fate, and it was inevitable that they would reach it someday. Right? And so this is the crux of the issue. I don't know. Obviously, you can't see fate. You don't know for sure how you're gonna die. I feel as though that my time is coming. I made a vow. This is a little bit of a side tangent, but I gotta bear with me, because scripts are for pussies. I made a vow when I was 19. I was a high school senior. All right. This was back in 2019. I was 19 years old. I made a vow that if... It's going to sound so pathetic, and it is pathetic. I'll be the first to admit, it is pretty pathetic. I made a vow that if by the time I'm 30, I haven't gotten laid, I was going to kill myself. Because I believe, and I still believe, that if by the age of 30, you are incapable of getting a single woman in bed with you, consensually, of course, I think that makes you a failure. I think that means you have failed in life, and you're too far gone at that point. I think that if I hit the age of 30 and I have been incapable of having sex with a woman, I specify a woman because no man is beautiful enough for me to be attracted to him. Obviously, being a lonely, degenerate loser, I fell down the femboy rabbit hole a couple of years ago. It is what it is. All right, don't act so fucking surprised. Everything that I've said up to this point, it should be obvious, right? It's obvious, right, that I've got basically nothing going for me, right? I've got no girlfriend. I've never had a girlfriend. In fact, I've never kissed a girl, right? I can't even imagine what it would take to get to that point, quite frankly. I don't know how people do it, right? Here's another thing, right? I believe a man needs to be an 8 out of 10 to attract a woman in the year of our Lord 2025. I think that it is a requirement that a man is an 8 out of 10, at least an 8 or 9 or a 10. They tell you, right? Well, don't approach women. They tell you don't approach women, in the club. Don't approach women at the bar. Don't approach women at work. Don't approach women in any public scenario because they don't want you. And it's like, well, as a man, objectively speaking, getting laid it's a major part of manhood. I'm just gonna fucking tell it like it is. People want to fucking say to your face, they want to spin it as though being a virgin isn't a big deal. Oh, being a virgin isn't a big deal. It doesn't make you less than other men. Yes, it does. I'm here to tell you, they think less of you. All right? Everybody thinks less of you as a man. It's not. Here's the thing. Here's the thing, everybody. It's not that you aren't getting laid. It's that you can't get laid. That's the difference. That's where the difference comes in. It's not that you aren't having sex. It's not that you don't have a girlfriend. It's that even if you tried, they would always say no because you're a fucking worthless man. And it's like getting laid, getting pussy, right? Getting bitches is a major part of being a man, and if you are incapable of it, then it does make you a lesser man. It does make you less of a man. It does make you kind of pathetic. If in and of, even give me this, right? Even if in of itself it does not by default make you less of a man, it inevitably leads to issues of self-image, and self-image issues and self-esteem issues as a man does make you less of a man, right? They say, well, just have confidence, right? And you could get a girl, just have confidence. That's step one. But that goes back to what I've been talking about. To have confidence, to have self-esteem, one must be validated externally, right? So if you're like me and you've never received external validation in your life, then where the fuck is confidence supposed to come from? Nothing pisses off a woman more than a confident, ugly guy. All right? Let me tell you. Nothing gets under a woman's skin more and makes you less attractive. Because when a woman sees an ugly guy who has no self-esteem, they go, oh yeah, well that makes sense. That's the natural order of things. Of course, just look at him. What right does he have to be proud of himself, right? By what right does this man, think he's does he think he have anything to be proud of? You look at an ugly guy, they look at an ugly guy who is confident. That just makes him even less attractive. As if being ugly wasn't enough of a debuff. You having confidence as an ugly guy makes you less attractive than the no self-esteem ugly guys, the unconfident ugly guys. The reason being ugly is what defines you as being creepy. Right? Being creepy just means you're ugly. Because, as we all know, attractive guys can get away with approaching women at the club, at the bar, in the workplace even, right at the grocery store. They walk up, they say whatever attractive men say to women. I wouldn't know. They say whatever it is that they say, right? And the woman will oblige them, right? What defines a man as being creepy in any of these scenarios is that he's ugly, is that he's unattractive. All right? I'm driving because that's the only way I can think. I can only think if I'm moving. If I'm not moving, if I'm not driving in the car, if I'm not, pacing around my fucking room, if I'm not moving in some way, then my thoughts are completely just fucking clouded and distorted. I can't think straight. It's all fucking foggy. Ugh, goddamn. So that's why I'm driving. But yeah, so, and I think a lot of happiness as a man, right, is being satisfied and content with where your life is. And one of the biggest things as at least a heterosexual man that define a life that you can be proud of is, quite frankly, having a woman, having a wife. Having a woman who gives a fuck about you, right? I don't see that in my future. I don't think I have it in me to be the kind of man that any woman would want. And I say that because I'm so far behind. I made the vow when I was 19. I think the fact that I made that vow at 19 shows that I was already so far behind at that age than everybody else that it was over for me even then. And I think the fact that I've progressed so little as a man in the 6 years since 2019 up until now I mean, that basically, is that not a sign? Is that not a sign that it's over for me, right? Is that not evidence that it's already too late? Everybody else is 6 years ahead of me. Everybody else my age is already 6 years ahead of me. They're living their lives, you know. They have reasons to live. They have people who care whether or not they live or die. I'm 6 years behind everybody else. If I started, you know, to get my shit back on track right now, then I'm still always going to be 6 years behind. Like, I've already handicapped myself so much by, you know, with all the self-loathing, that I think even if I started to get my shit in order now, it's already too late. I'm already too far behind for it to make any difference. Like, imagine being in a race. You know, imagine being in a race and everybody else has like 6 full minutes to get as far as they can before you move. And the worst part of it is that you can't even muster up the balls to move on your own. You know? Here's the thing. I know that any move I make to improve my life will be met with failure, because everything that I have ever done has ended in failure. Here's the thing. I am a failure, right? I think if you've been paying attention, that's pretty easy to see. I think I've already failed in life. And I think no matter how hard I try, I'm just gonna fail anyways. Like, so why even bother? Why bother going through the effort of trying if inevitably failure is all that awaits me, right? I tried college, you know, right out of high school. I didn't want to go, right? But I was, you know, pushed into making the decision. At the end of the day, it's on me for listening to everybody else and not just doing, you know, not just living how I wanted to live. But that, I mean, that's just been a constant in my life since I was, you know, for basically my entire life. I've never really decided anything for myself. You know, and it's kind of just left me crippled in a way. And now, so I tried college. I enrolled in college in the fall of 2019. You can see where this is going. I already had so little motivation in the first semester. That's fall of 2019. Come around to my second semester of college, and COVID hits. Right? Things were going better in my second semester, I think. I think things would have progressed better if COVID didn't hit. As soon as I was trapped in my room, in my home, you know, doing online courses, any motivation I had to do well just completely fucking dropped off a cliff. It disappeared. I don't know how to explain it. Like, at least I was able to, you know, at least I had something back when I was, you know, moving from my town to the town, you know, where the college campus was, because I lived at home when I was in college. I didn't live in a dorm. Looking back, I think that was one of the biggest mistakes. I think if I had lived in the dorm, right, and actually, like, had, you know, like a roommate and people at, like, on campus, that I could like talk to, then I'd have more motivation to stick around. But basically, I dropped out after my second semester. After that, I had a couple of jobs. I've only ever worked fast food. Again, I'm a fucking worthless failure, right? I know. So I've only ever worked fast food jobs. They pay for shit. Alright, you gotta deal with a bunch of motherfuckers. I don't like talking to people. I don't like interacting with people. I don't like people seeing me. Alright, because I understand the revulsion that people feel when they see me. I feel it when I see me. You know, I feel the same level of revulsion that other people do when I see myself. Right? I don't let anybody take pictures of me. I don't like going outside. If I could get away with wearing like a fucking shiesty all the time, I would. Right? If that didn't make me look shady as fuck, that's how I would live my life. As soon as I leave the house, put on the fucking shiesty. Don't have to fucking worry about it, right? But that's not exactly socially acceptable, so I don't do it. Everybody, you know, they look at me. It's bad. It's bad. Right, I can see it on their face. Nobody enjoys looking at me, least of all me. Right? So, you know, I had fast food jobs. They were terrible. For a couple of years. After getting out of college. After those fast food jobs, which, I'll just be frank, why not? I got fired for most of them. Well, I suppose that's not exactly true. I was at odds with management. For my first job, I worked at a pizza place. Basically, everybody that worked alongside me that had been there for the entire time that I was there were leaving, all of them. So basically, how can I put this? The thought of being a manager at any of these places scared the shit out of me, because I don't think I would do good in a management position. I don't think I'm smart enough or capable enough to handle management. I don't. I think I would fail, and then obviously all of my deficiencies, all of my failures, they'd just be, exacerbated. They'd be basically inflicted on everybody below me, because obviously if the people below you are failing, it is your fault as the manager, as the superior. If everybody below you is trash, that says something about how shit you are running things. And I know that if I tried to be a manager, then I would fail. Alright, I failed at sports in school. I tried football, I tried basketball, I tried soccer. I was always the worst on every team that I was on. You can imagine what that did to me, to my psyche. You can imagine, right? Almost got in an accident there. I almost, oh wow, I'm an idiot. I had my turn signal on. I'm getting distracted. But it's fine. So It's like, yeah, I failed at every sport that I tried to play. I was terrible at soccer. I was terrible at basketball. I was terrible at football. I was always the worst on the team every single time without fail. All of my friends, by the way, if they weren't, fucking athletic gigajads, were like the smartest motherfuckers in my school. Now, maybe that doesn't mean much in my state. Not exactly known for our education system, but like these motherfuckers were legitimately smart. I don't know how around these parts that these motherfuckers were so intelligent. They were literally every friend I had in elementary and middle school was in gifted and talented. I was the only one that wasn't. You can imagine that combined with, so half of them were like fucking musical prodigies, and the other half were like hyper confident athletes, and they were all in the gifted and talented program. I was the odd man out. I was the anchor, basically holding everyone else back from being as good as they could be. I was the loser of the group. You can imagine what growing up like that does to a motherfucker, especially when my parents endlessly compared my meager achievements to everything that they were doing. They never let me hear the end of how everyone around me was doing so well and I was the only one that wasn't, which you can imagine only made shit worse. Right? So anyway, after I left my last fast food position, I was fired from that one. I worked 4 fast food jobs in my life. The first one was a pizza place. I left that one because, everybody that I worked with that I could count on was leaving pretty much all at once, like in the same month. And then it was just going to be me and a bunch of new people. And I was also terrified of being elevated to manager, because I still know that if I was made manager there, that I would be terrible at it. Then I worked at McDonald's for a few months. And McDonald's was terrible because that was basically, that wasn't the type of manager that I thought I would be, but it was even worse because it's someone that didn't give a fuck, which I guess it's fine for him, good for him. He doesn't give a fuck, but it's bad for me as the employee when the manager that is meant to take care of shit and has, responsibilities and shit, if that guy is taking hour-long smoke breaks multiple times through the shift that I work, that's bad for me. So I hated it there, and I stopped working there after a few months. I worked at Pizza Hut for... it's a different pizza chain than the one that I worked at previously, but I worked at Pizza Hut for, I think, maybe a week. And that was my first at-work crash out. Because my first day at Pizza Hut, I dealt with a Karen who was standing. She was standing there was this shriveled old bitch, right, with saggy titties, literally wearing Daisy Dukes and a bikini top, with short gray hair. It's she was a vile, disgusting creature, and she had the personality to match. She was completely repugnant in every way, and she fucking hounded me for 2 hours because she had apparently made an order. I wasn't the one taking orders on the phone at this time. It was me and 2 other people on shift. This is in the summer of shit. I think it's maybe the summer of 2021, I think. Yeah, it's like summer 2021. So you can imagine we're getting a lot of calls for pizza. We're incredibly understaffed. We have 1 person making the pizzas who's literally like an elderly woman with Parkinson's. She's fucking shaking all over the place. I don't know how the fuck she could make pizzas, literally with like pretty severe Parkinson's by the looks of her. And then you had 1 guy taking orders and doing the dishes, and you had me working the drive-thru. This is the first day, by the way. So it's incredibly busy. It's incredibly busy. This was still at the time where like COVID lockdowns were a thing, so like the inside was closed, but like that just meant more orders for the drive-thru. And so basically you had this shriveled old bag fucking harassing me, literally actually harassing me for like 2 hours straight. She wouldn't leave. She kept making issues. Apparently she had made a fucking order or something over the phone. I don't know. I didn't take her fucking order over the phone. I was working the drive-thru. And apparently when she showed up, we didn't have the order ready. It wasn't 2 hours. It was like 20 minutes. But like even then, that was enough. Every time that I would like bring out a pizza to give to the person who was at the window, she would literally just be there complaining about how fucking awful that I am, which is not something that I needed at the time when I was trying to work. I basically just let her have it verbally. And it's not one of these, feminist owned, fucking own the libs, fucking stick it to that Karen. It was very petulant. Very petulant, very immature, looking back now. But god damn, I was so fucking angry at the time. So I let her have it. That almost got me fired on my first day. It didn't. I got a job working at a burger place, a local burger chain. After that paid so much fucking better. So I immediately jumped ship from Pizza Hut to the local burger chain. To the burger joint. I was working at the burger joint for 18 months until this other old bitch who hated me, I'm not joking, because I didn't smile enough. This is why I don't blame women who hate. I didn't even, we'll get into that story some other day. Alright, but suffice to say, alright, this bitch hated me because I didn't smile enough. That's not a joke, that's not an exaggeration, that's not a misunderstanding. This is literally the case. I did not smile enough at work, so she hated me. So basically there were other things. This was like an almost all-time low point. I say almost all-time low point because I think I'm lower now than I was then. But basically, I went to the back. I had like a full load of patties on the grill. And I told her, which is pretty standard practice, hey, I'm going to the back. Don't let these burn. Right? Just letting her know I'm going to like restock the meat here in the kitchen. I'm going to go over to the back for that. I need you manning the grill for like 5 minutes while I take care of this, and she acknowledged it. I come back to find literally an entire batch of burger patties still on the grill, charred fucking black. And I let her have it too. But this time, alright, that was another employee, and not only was that an employee that was basically best friends with the day shift manager. You can imagine how speedy my firing was at that time. So they fired me. I enlisted into the army after that. So you get to the base. I'm not going to say which base because it'll basically dox me, more or less. I'd prefer not to be doxed, or at least to make it as difficult as possible to dox me. So basically, I arrive at the base. There's a week of basically processing. So they process all your paperwork, all your information, and you're not in training yet, right? It's literally just a week of like getting yelled at by drills, but you're not even like doing anything. You're literally like sitting in an auditorium for like 2 or 3 hours on end, between meal times, with literally nothing to do. And God help you if God help you if you need to talk to the drills for anything, because for some reason the drills in processing are like extra fucking bitchy and will like get in your face and fucking punish you for literally like anything. And I suppose I can understand the reason behind it being like they're trying to like prepare you for what real training is like, but it's like we're not even doing anything. Like, I'm literally just asking where the fucking where the restroom is, where the latrine is. Sorry, drill sergeant. The latrine. Restroom? What the fuck is a restroom, trainee? You know, you get that kind of shit. You get that kind of shit for even just basic shit like calling the latrine a restroom, right? Basically, not fun. Not fun. I don't much enjoy being screamed at for basically nothing, and that's basically what processing was. Funnily enough, in actual training, drills almost never, at least the drills that my my group, fuck it, I'll just say it, my battery had. Alright? People who know fucking military lingo will probably narrow down which fort that I was at, because we call our shits batteries instead of companies. It's normally companies, right? But for artillery companies, we call ourselves batteries. I don't know why, it is what it is. Artillery is just a special fucking snowflake division, I guess. Keep in mind, I'm incredibly weak. I had no business being at an artillery base when I am as weak and soft and pathetic as I am. Speaking of soft and pathetic, literally the first week of real training, so after the week after, so you have one full week of processing. It's not set in stone. It could be longer, it could be shorter, but for me it was exactly 1 week of processing before me and some of the other people in my processing group, called Alpha 95th. Jesus fucking Christ, what the fuck are you doing? Some dumb bitch halfway back out of their fucking parking lot sees that I'm coming and just stops in the middle of the fucking road. Instead of, fucking get back into your fucking your driveway, get back into your fucking driveway instead of just blocking half the fucking road. Dumb bitch. Anyway, so yeah, I fractured both of my heels in the first week of training. Literally by day 3 I was limping because I already cracked my heels, both of them. Although at this time my right heel was much worse than my left. You can imagine in like phase 1 of basic training, which is where like the most grueling physical activity is, which is phase 1. They call it fucking red phase because you have the red phase, you have the white phase, and then you have the blue phase. Red phase is what you probably picture when you think of basic training. You're doing like fucking exercises all day. You're fucking getting your fucking ass chewed out by drill sergeants, right? You're doing fucking copious amounts of exercise. That's red phase. White phase is when you start doing basically like target practice. You learn to like disassemble, reassemble, clean, and fire your rifle in white phase. And then blue phase, I believe, is when you start doing like basically like getting into like the real shit. So you're doing like basically like fire drills and shit, like combat drills, and like actually doing like things that you would do like in a combat scenario. And it get basically after red phase, shit gets a lot easier is what I'm saying. But I didn't make it out of red phase. I cracked both of my heels in the first week of training. I was on crutches and had 2 boots. If you don't know what a boot is, it's this big like foam stocking that like holds your foot and ankle in place. It's big as fuck. I had 2 of those motherfuckers, and I was on crutches. Like by the time the second week came around, because it takes them a while to like fully diagnose. It took them like several days basically to like fully diagnose that I had cracked at least one of my heels. Come to find, actually I cracked both of my heels. Alright, you can imagine being the only guy in my battery to have an injury in the first week. So then I'm like trailing behind on my crutches while they actually do shit. Like while they actually train, I'm just being, fucking lugged around basically. The drills will still fucking hound you for whatever reason. I had this one drill, I can't actually recall his name. It wasn't a good name. It was a pretty shit name. He was the real fucking hard ass. He hated cripples specifically. He hated cripples. This is not a joke or exaggeration or misunderstanding. His favor was dictated by who was the most physically competent. Right? So if you were out of shape, he hated you. If you were in shape, he wanted to be your best fucking friend. And if you were crippled like me, then he hated you extra. So that was fun. Anyway, I got out of the army. And that's where I'm at now. So, circling this back around to the topic of happiness, I think any attempt, because what life has taught me is that any attempt to better myself, any attempt to make something myself, any attempt to try to be happy or find purpose will be met with failure. Because I am fated, I think, I am fated to kill myself at the age of 30. I don't want to do it before then, because who knows, maybe at the age of 29 I'll finally get laid. Probably not. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to riz up a fine shit? Am I supposed to fucking walk up to her and talk about, oh yeah, I was technically in the army. Huh. I was technically enlisted. I got to hold my rifle once. Yeah, good fucking luck, right? No, I think it's over. I think it's pretty much over. I don't think there's really any hope for me left. I think any attempt I make to be happy will fail. I don't think I deserve happiness. I think failing as many times as I have, as spectacularly as I have, I think that is a sign from God or fate or the universe or whatever the fuck is out there telling me that, quite frankly, I'm unworthy of the breath in my lungs. The air in my lungs is, quite frankly, better spent going to someone else. What rights do I have to consume this oxygen, right? When there are people who actually matter that could be breathing this air instead. Anyway, that's all for today. Try not to kill yourself.